This is episode 1151.
What I never imagined and didn't realize is the more senior you become, the more of your time is spent and invested in people-related issues. It's no longer sitting on a spreadsheet necessarily or looking at different models and forecasts. I mean, yes, obviously that's part of the job. And it's a topic that I'm really, really passionate about because I love building winning teams. And as I told you, that's kind of what I'm on a mission on right now here at Perk. I will say to all those CFOs and aspiring CFOs, be ready to spend, if you don't enjoy spending time with people, you should rethink whether you want this role, because you will end up spending a lot of time with people. It's not about the numbers. The numbers, yes, it's part of the job, but you will have other people that will spend most of their time on the number side. And frankly, yeah. So I did not expect that.
The CFO role has changed, but not everyone has changed with it. Today's conversation explores what happens when finance moves from reporting outcomes to shaping them. My guest operates where strategy, execution, and AI today collide, and we dig into what it really means to be a trusted advisor, why asking why can matter more than saying no, and how CFOs are in a seat before decisions are made. We also touch on AI's limits, people leadership, and the trade-offs finance leaders face when markets turn. Our talk with CFO Roy Hefer of Perk begins after this. Pop quiz. What is it that drives smarter decisions and sustainable growth? That's easy. It's cash flow clarity. As a finance leader in today's now you see it, now you don't world, you need more than just accurate books. You need real-time visibility. You need automation. You got to have agility to act fast. Instead, what do you got? You got pea soup. Look, you're lucky if your headlights span 4 feet in front of you. And I'll tell you what, don't accelerate. Don't even think about it. Here's where you let Intuit QuickBooks jump into your lane. QuickBooks has powerful money management tools built right into their platform that sync payments, bills, and funding all in one place, offering real-time visibility. Your high beams are turned on and your business cash flows are exposed, allowing you to put your business in high gear without putting its financial health at risk. Transform your cash flow and your business. Check out QuickBook Money Tools today. Oh, and yes, look here. Terms may apply. Hello, Roy Hefer is with us. Roy's career spans a variety of roles and opportunities, from McKinsey consultant and Israeli Air Force officer to leading finance functions across medical devices, fintech, high-growth platform companies. At Lumenis, he helped guide an IPO and later a major PE acquisition. Today at AI-powered travel and spend platform Perk, Roy is helping to guide the company's growth agenda. Roy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jack. Pleasure to be here.
So it's a very interesting early chapter. I'm hoping you'll spend some time looking all the way back for us. But as we always do, Roy, share with us those experiences you feel prepared you for the role.
Absolutely. In fact, it's funny, if you'd asked me 20 years ago if I would ever see myself as a CFO, I would tell you, Jack, absolutely no way. Because I think the perception of the role for me at the time was a kind of how I saw the CFO role was a reporting focused, a scorekeeper of the company, someone who would come every period, month, quarter, year, tell the company, here's how the performance has been, here's where we are, and try to explain how we got there. Was very passive in my mind. And I think what has happened over the last 2 decades is the role of the CFO has transformed quite dramatically. And it's that kind of transition that really pulled me into the role. So what I'm talking about is, I think the modern CFO today is much more forward facing. right? So helping shape the strategy of the business. So I think first and foremost, my starting point in my career, as a consultant with McKinsey, working with leadership teams and exec teams of Fortune 500 companies across a variety of industries and across multiple types of projects. So strategy, pricing, operations, transformation. That was the best business school, real life business school, for frankly, anyone who is not sure what they want to do in their lives. Like, it's a highly recommended starting point because you learn so much. My learning curve was through the roof. And I've worked with different types of teams in different geographies and with exceptional people that taught me how businesses actually work. So that was phenomenal, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Was there a specific industry or geography you were based with McKinsey in?
I was a journalist. I was based out of Tel Aviv office, but I spent actually most of my time abroad, mostly in Europe, London, Amsterdam, Paris, various types of industries, telecom, banking, retail, gas, oil and gas. So I was a journalist by nature, and I really loved it because I loved learning new things. And I love it's such a phenomenal opportunity to understand how different industries and companies work and make money. So that was phenomenal. I realized, though, after about 5 years of working with McKinsey that I'm a doer, right? So I like to get things done. And as much as I loved coming with the perfect solution and a well-crafted deck and an amazing model and a very sophisticated framework to actually solve complex business problems, what was missing for me was the execution. Oftentimes we would work 70, 80-hour weeks, and we would deliver the project to the clients, but I would never have any kind of part in the implementation of the solution, right? Let alone drive the execution of it, and that was really missing for me. So after 5 years, I met a tremendously ambitious CEO who was just appointed CEO of Lumenis at the time, a medical device company in Israel. We met for 30 minutes, was supposed to be an introductory coffee. We ended up spending more than 3 hours together, talking about her vision for Lumenis, how she's planning to transform the company. It was at the time very flat growth, almost no growth at all, bleeding cash, not profitable. And her plan was to transform the company and ultimately take it public, which sounded like an amazing opportunity. Other than the obviously personal chemistry that I had with her and personal connection, this seemed to me like a perfect playground to take all those great McKinsey learnings and now actually own the implementation of those. And I couldn't have asked for a better playbook, honestly, to actually put some of those really interesting and thoughtful frameworks to place. And we ended up transforming the company, right? So we ended up, in a couple of years, we made Lumenis one of Israel's fastest growing medical device companies, fast growth, profitable, cash generating, and ultimately took it public on NASDAQ in 2014. And that was a phenomenal journey. Now, what happened then is, on the lead up to the IPO, my CFO, whom I worked really closely with, asked me to join his team. And so I was kind of torn between CEO and CFO and realized I want to do both because I really loved working with both of them. And for me, this was really the first aha moment, or I think the moment where I fell in love with finance, because I saw through the work with Ophir, the CFO back then, how influential finance is in every single decision of the company, whether it's M&A, fundraising, strategic partnerships, geographical expansion, cost cutting. There's so many different ways where finance could be influential. And I'd never, at that point in my life, I felt like I was more of a track to probably be a GM maybe one day, or a CEO or a COO, some kind of an operator. I didn't imagine that I would be very passionate about growing in the CFO's track. And through that experience with Lumenis, working, preparing the company to go public, and then working with both the CEO and CFO, and really fell in love with the job, and I realized how much impact there is. And so we ended up taking the company public. Then we took it private. We sold it to a private equity, as you mentioned at the outset. I relocated to the US and helped drive finance and operations for its largest subsidiary based out of San Jose. And then I ended up working 7 years in the Bay Area as a VP finance. Ultimately, and kind of 2021 was my second IPO with Hippo Insurance as a VP finance. And after we took Hippo Insurance public on the New York Stock Exchange, it was clear to me that I want to be a CFO, and I felt very much ready to step into that role. And then I met Avi and JC, our current CEO, founder and CEO and COO of the business, and it was clear to me that Perk was the place where I want to go, primarily because of the culture. The culture and values of this team are second to none. And also, I knew the pain points very well, because managing travel and spend of your employees, if you don't have a good solution in place, is a huge, huge pain, which I've felt firsthand in my career as a finance exec. So everything kind of came together, the McKinsey consulting, more the theoretical side, and then the implementation through Lumenis. And then at Hippo, I learned what it means to actually be a CFO. And I learned a lot from my great mentor, Stuart Ellis, who was the CFO back then, on how to be a successful CFO and how to thrive in this role. So yeah, it all came together, and now I'm based in Barcelona, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I wonder, you told us very interestingly how you felt at McKinsey, you were just handing over advice and there wasn't a way to execute it. I wonder, as you went on in your career, if there was a specific moment when you felt your role had made the shift from supporting decisions to truly shaping the direction of the business.
The real moment of satisfaction came when I joined Lumenis, when I started to get direct ownership of actual projects. So for example, we would do there was a big supply chain project. How could we wanted to cut 30% cost on the supply chain side, right? So it's a medical device manufacturer. There's a lot of hardware and supply chain. And in my prior life as a consultant, I would come and do all the analysis, build up an amazing model with the team, obviously, and experts. And then we would hand it over. Here it was, you do that and you take ownership, and you work with the head of supply chain, with the head of operations. And to be clear, it's not just me, right? There's a team. We work together, which is also something I really much enjoy, working as a team together, driving companies forward and driving value. And yeah, that supply chain project was one where it was the first project, and it was extremely successful. We managed to save more than 40% cost, actually. And, from then on, we did a strategy project where we, again, not just the theoretical part, but we actually changed the strategy of the company. And then we had several M&A, big M&As that we did at Lumenis, which were very heavily involvement from finance on go, no-go decisions, on how to define the synergies and the implementation. Yeah, so I would say that was it. That was the first time when I actually managed to, get real satisfaction from seeing real results in business.
Right. Many finance leaders talk about the importance of cross-functional credibility. And I'm wondering, were there experiences that taught you how to build that trust outside the finance team?
I love this question, and trust. Trust is actually my number one value, not just in business, but also in life. It's all about building trust. I think whether you have prior experience in a certain domain matters, but it's not the main thing. So yes, coming with credibility of having seen different businesses and different functions definitely helps. But I think what matters more is being humble, being curious, and doing the hard work to gain trust from your peers. Because to be clear, none of what I described was me going and doing stuff. It was me working with the leadership team. And oftentimes the way you have impact is actually not by being the one sitting in the room and saying, oh, we need to do, X, Y, Z. Is actually, let's say in the case supply chain, head of supply chain, I would work with them and their teams behind the scenes to set them up for success in front of when they present to the executive team. And then they would be the one taking all the credit, but they would come to me after the fact and obviously be grateful for our relationship. And that way you gain the real trust of those of your peers, which means you are now their trusted partners, which means you can even have more impact because they're going to bring you earlier on to give advice on big decisions. I often, a lot of your guests on the show have talked about being a strategic thought partner and kind of the transition in the role of the CFO. And I know that's kind of pretty much known at this point. So I'm not going to elaborate on that. But what I will say is I often get asked, how do you know that you are a strategic thought partner? And my answer is simple. Are you being invited to provide advice early on big decisions? So note that there are three components. You're being invited because what I have seen oftentimes is the finance teams are not invited, but they're being called on because somebody needs to check the box and then go to the CEO and say, I've ran it by finance. So that doesn't count. So you're being invited proactively to give advice early on, not when the decision has been made already, but actually in the very early stages of the decision. And it has to be a big decision. And big decisions are typically financing, M&A, big strategic partnerships, or frankly, people-related issues, whether it's hiring senior people or letting go or major transformational organizational changes. If you are being invited early on those types of big decisions, you can consider yourself being a trusted advisor, and it probably means that you have high levels of trust with your peers and with the organization. I will tell you, Jack, it doesn't take 5 minutes. Like the wall of trust is being built slowly and gradually, brick by brick over time. And it can also be, a wall can be broken very easily, but it takes a long time to build. So my advice would be be patient, build it over time, put your ego aside. Don't try to take credit, but rather actually help your teammates and your peers, set them up for success, because that will create this kind of real circle of trust, which you'll be in, and then it will just amplify your impact over time.
I suspect we could, as that thought partner, as that person who got invited to sit in on whether it was the marketing team or the HR, next year's hiring strategy, your McKinsey experience. This is where finance executives sometimes struggle. If you came up through the accounting ranks and you got invited to that meeting, the way you participate would be perhaps unknown to you. What is the value I bring here?
Actually, it's a phenomenal point, Jack. I didn't think about it but actually, when you were asking the question now, it crystallized to me. One huge advantage as coming after working as a consultant is you have the ability to ask what would seem as very simple and naive questions, but are actually very fundamental. Sometimes just by thinking first principles and asking why in a meeting, you would be shocked how many people don't ask why. And sometimes these are stupid questions, but oftentimes everybody's thinking about that question, but nobody has the guts to actually ask that question because it seemed like, this is what we've been doing for 15 years. Of course, we will continue to do this. And I think that mindset, after having gone through so many businesses and seen how when you expose the fundamental questions, like asking why several times, okay, so help me understand, why are we doing this? What is the point? I can tell you that mindset is one that I, even today with my finance team, asking why is actually one of our a huge value for us. Thinking first principles and asking why is a huge value for us. And we train ourselves in constantly asking, not just ourselves, but the organization, ask why. Instead of the traditional CFO who would typically be the person saying no, we are wired to just ask why. And if something makes sense, then maybe not only we should do it, we should actually double down and do more of it. But thinking first principle and asking why, I think, yes, you're absolutely right. Something that I learned at McKinsey and very much implemented. And you're absolutely right. It's a mindset change. And it takes some experience to be able to do that. Have the guts to do it, basically.
Well, Roy, we probably will have some more career-related questions for you, but right now let's find out about Perk. Tell us about this company and this opportunity that you joined some years ago. Tell us about it. What's Perk about?
Absolutely. Perk is the fastest growing AI powered travel and spend solution for specifically designed for small and medium businesses. So our mission is simple. We want to eliminate shadow work. So what is shadow work? Shadow work is all the work that is not the work that you were hired to perform. So when you're trying to book your flight, make changes in your reservations, code invoices or tag receipts, all the work that you need to do, right, to get reimbursed, to make sure the company has its controls, all that type of work, if you think about it holistically, it's a waste because you spend time and money on things that are outside of your core competency and frankly are demoralizing and draining. So we are here to eliminate shadow work. That's our mission. We've started in travel. We've done it extremely well. Now we're focusing on doing the same in spend. And over time, we will tackle more and more of these pockets of shadow work within our customer base. Because what we've seen is, so we've done a research study with Forrester that has revealed a staggering amount of waste in the global economy. So the cost of shadow work right now is estimated at $1.7 trillion, which is just insane, honestly. And it turns out employees spend more than 7 hours a week on tasks that are unrelated to their core competency. So A, it's a huge waste. B, it's extremely draining. Nobody wants to do these things. And it's extremely demoralizing. And the more you can remove these tasks from your company's kind of workforce and free them up, right? You want to empower them to actually spend more time on getting their job done and letting their businesses win. That is how we create value for them, and that is how Perk is successful because, our customers love the product, love the value prop. We've been growing tremendously fast over the past couple of years. We just crossed 300 million in annualized revenue, growing almost 50% this year. And the company is on a great trajectory. So happy to tell you more about that, but let me pause here and see if this makes sense.
Yeah, we're always interested in sort of the history of the capital structure. Can you tell us how this company came to be?
Yeah, we've raised over 600 million in financing so far. Our last round was Series E financing in January 2025, led by EQT Growth and Atomico. We have General Catalyst, SoftBank, Sequoia, Schenevik, Target Global, a lot of big world-class venture capital firms on the cap table. And we right now we're very well funded, primarily by VC backed, and we're on a very strong trajectory. I think one thing, Jack, which is very important to emphasize also, one of the things that sets us apart today, I know everybody is talking about AI, right? Oh, we're doing AI here, we're doing AI here. We were one of the first companies at scale to embrace AI in our customer care operations. So in late 2022, when ChatGPT launched and kind of marked the revolution of AI, we immediately embraced AI within our customer care operation. And what we've managed to do is going from sub 40% gross margin in 2022 to mid 70s% gross margin now, which is a complete transformation, primarily with implementing automation and AI within our customer care operation. And so AI is it's not like we patched AI. We built a product around AI. And the best part, by the way, is obviously as a CFO, I'm proud of the financial outcomes, but I will tell you the best part is the customer satisfaction score went up. The more we've managed to automate the interaction with our customer care, the more we've managed to streamline and eliminate the need for human interaction, the higher the satisfaction score became. And that's why I think what's unique about us is the employees love us because they get a very slick, automated customer care, consumer grade experience, really. But also the finance teams love us because we help them automate, monitor, control what is one of the largest line item in your for every company. Travel and spend is very, very high on the cost bucket list.
Yep.
And so we basically help them save time and money and make them happier.
What about your own finance function? How are you using AI, and is it are you addressing forecasting with it? Tell us where AI is supporting your own team.
Oof, forecasting. You're touching on a pet peeve of mine, because every I will tell you, Jack, every quarter or two we ask ourselves, is there a better AI powered tool to drive a kind of higher predictive power to our forecast model? And I'll be honest with you, I've yet to seen it. If your listeners, any of your listeners, happy to, if you have any cool tools that I'm not aware of, please send over my way, because again, for forecasting specifically, I've yet to seen it. I think where it may work, to be honest, is probably if your business is kind of on a steady path, no major strategic shift in the business, no major changes. If you're kind of growing, 5, 10, 15%, pretty steady track, no changes in the business model, I think that's where AI could probably help you forecast better. But for a company that is at a growing 50% a year, very dynamic, with M&A, with fast paced and a lot of changes, again, happy to be proven wrong, but I've yet to see that there's any tool that can help you increase the predictive power at a lower cost and lower kind of better cost benefit. What I will say is there is a lot of opportunity to implement AI beyond forecasting, right? So where we are, I would say in early stages. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we are best in class. I want to be best in class, but we're not there yet. But in things like invoicing, collections, a lot of the journal entries, I think there's so much automation around it. Just the closing processes. And again, we're in the early stages there. I'd say we're probably, a third way in. There's still 2/3 to explore, and to excel. And we're pushing ourselves a lot. I want to win. I want to be, my vision and mission is to build the world's #1 finance and legal team. And part of that is also implementing the world's best tools, which obviously includes AI today. I don't think we're there yet internally, but we're on a steady path to get there.
Can you share with us what is your mindset when it comes to building these capabilities or acquiring them? Is the company known to be acquisitive? Give us a sense of reflect a little on the company's M&A mindset and build versus buy.
So we have done 3 main acquisitions in our history, and we've managed to very, very successfully integrate all 3 of them. The most recent one is the expense platform, which we acquired early this year, and we just completed the integration a few weeks ago. I would say we have the muscle. We've done it several times before, but it all comes back to first principles, asking why. Like, should we develop it in-house? Could we develop it? Sometimes the answer is yes, but then what does that mean? What is the opportunity cost, right? If we do this, then it means we're not doing 100 other things which were on the roadmap. So sometimes it's typically that kind of a conversation. It's not so much about can we do it? The answer is typically yes, but the question is, what would we not be doing if we had to develop everything in-house? We have a very strong internal growth engine, both on the product side and the go-to-market side. And the vast majority of our product offering has been developed in-house. But again, I think like every business at scale, you need to make the right trade-offs. I can see ourselves exploring additional M&A and kind of tack-on acquisitions in the future. But to be clear, the entire business plan is completely organic. We're not relying on M&A. We don't need M&A. We will do the right deal if and when the circumstances are there. Culture is extremely important for us. I know it's for CFOs that's sometimes feels like a soft topic, but culture in my mind is the make or break for M&As. You can have all the perfect synergies on paper, in the model, in the business, but if the founding teams and management teams across both companies are not aligned on their vision, on how to operate, and just don't have the personal connection, then it's not going to succeed. And I can tell you the primary reason why the 3 acquisitions we've done was so successful is because of that cultural connection and the alignment on values.
You have continued to emphasize values, and I'm wondering if they play a role also as far as guardrails that you believe finance leaders today must put in place to ensure that AI adoption aligns with not just compliance and privacy, but your values as well.
100% yes. I think one of our values as companies is be a good person, do the right thing, right? And I think that's very relevant in the world of AI, where very easily, without noticing, you could, without even, your own employees using it, you could be extremely intrusive in terms of what data you collect, right? And store. And I would say that is something that we are very, very sensitive about. We obviously deal with sensitive personal information, and we are religious about protecting those, making sure that very, very clear guardrails around how we use, store, and protect data, especially personal information. The other part is honestly less about AI, but it goes back to trust, right? If any CFO and finance org that wants to be a trusted advisor, if you think about trust, so we talk a lot about trust, but what does trust mean? For me, trust means 4 things. It's credibility as a professional, right? So if you're being asked a question that is in your personal domain, let's say, what's the optimal financing structure, things that you're expected to do, to know as a finance person, you will know the right answer. So you are credible, right? That's point number 1. Point number 2 is reliable. If you say you're going to deliver a report within 3 days, you need to deliver that report no matter what happens. Otherwise, don't commit to that timeline. So you're credible, you're reliable. The third component, which touches a little bit on what you described, was being able to be a confidant. So handling sensitive, confidential information. If you ever made a terrible mistake of sharing private and confidential information, it would be you immediately break the wall of trust, and you basically undermine your role as a trusted partner. And the fourth, and maybe the most unspoken, I think, in terms of trust, is don't be self-centered. So when you are invited to a decision, remember that it's never about you. You don't need to speak up. You don't need to say, this is what we need to do. The real power and how you build trust best, in my mind, is helping frame the decisions, lay out the options, sometimes even do it outside of the room. You don't need to actually speak up in any meeting, but do the work outside. And even if somebody negates your opinion or has a very, very strong opinion that counters whatever you think, it's fine. It's never about you. Don't take it personally. It's always about the business. It's never about you. Those 4 things: credibility, reliability, confidentiality, and never be self-centered. Those are the key components for me of building trust, and what I've seen successful finance leaders doing in their careers.
Great insight there for us. Thank you. We're up to what we like to refer to as our finance strategic moment. And again, this might have happened any time during your career. It was just a moment of insight that you had that allowed you to pursue an opportunity, perhaps, or stay away from a risk that seemed too grand. What comes to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
Yeah, so to be honest, Jack, I believe finance is by definition strategic. As I mentioned, you even if you're not the one making the decision, you're oftentimes helping behind the scenes, shaping the options and framing the kind of the art of possible. There's one really good example, which I'm happy to share, of how finance helps shape the strategy. That is in late 2022. Avi and I were out in the market fundraising. And it didn't take us a long time to realize. So this is late 2022. If you recall, it was after the post-COVID stock market crash. Yep. It didn't took us a long time to realize that there is no funding market for fast growth tech companies. And at that point in time, my job as a CFO was not to say we need to do X or Y or Z, but rather do the work and come up with a couple of alternatives, right? So what I did and what we did with the team was we laid out the options. Option A, we can raise financing that are highly dilutive and at a kind of highly structured, so very punitive and potentially very dilutive as well, or at a major down round, which obviously wasn't a real option. So that was kind of option number one, and continue the business as usual with the business plan. Or what we did was we laid out an alternative business plan, which focus of which was to get to profitability as fast as possible. So we traded off growth for profitability. We decided to lower the growth rate, burn less cash, but what it would do, it allowed us to become profitable faster. And when we laid out the option, and basically by being profitable faster, you own your destiny, because that means you don't need to raise money and you're a default alive. By laying those two options, you didn't really need to, those were two viable options. Those were the two main alternatives. There were a couple of other ones kind of in between, but by laying out the options in a very clear way, you don't need to make the decision, because the decision makes itself. One of my great mentors, and I love this guy, my CFO at Hippo, Stuart Ellis, he always used to say, if you could pick the candidates in an election, you don't need to vote. That's, for me, the essence of influencing. You help frame the options. You help shape the discussion. And then a lot of time the decision is made almost in itself.
Nice. Thank you for that. We're going to move to what we like to refer to as the mentoring round. This is where we're going to ask you about your first 60 days in the role. And we wonder what, we're looking for what you didn't expect. We're wondering what aspect of the role was a little different from what you expected. Again, for all those CFOs or future CFOs out there who are going to step in thinking, hey, I've observed this role for many, many years. I know many CFOs. This is something you didn't expect. And what would that be?
It's a great question. I think, honestly, what I never imagined and didn't realize is the more senior you become, the more of your time is spent and invested in people-related issues. It's no longer sitting on a spreadsheet necessarily, or looking at different models and forecasts. I mean, yes, obviously that's part of the job, but you spend more and more of your time on people-related issues, whether it's externally with investors, whether it's with internally, obviously much more internally than externally, but you spend a lot of your time with people, and especially with your peers, right? Helping them make sure that they are on track to hit their goals, so that the company as a whole can hit the goals, but also internally with building your team. Yeah. And it's a topic that I'm really, really passionate about, because I love building winning teams. And as I told you, that's kind of what I'm on a mission on right now here at Perk. But I did never imagine that I would spend so much of my time on people-related issues, whether it's hiring, retaining, and sometimes, unfortunately, also letting go. And like everyone else, there's never a perfect answer in hiring. There's always setbacks. Unfortunately, I had to go through major changes in my team. But when I look back to where we are today, 3.5 years after I joined, I think we are, we have the fundamentals of building the world's #1 finance and legal team, and that's we're on a great path to get there. I will say to all those CFOs and aspiring CFOs, be ready to spend, if you don't enjoy spending time with people, you should rethink whether you want this role, because you will end up spending a lot of time with people. It's not about the numbers. The numbers, yes, it's part of the job, but you will have other people that will spend most of their time on the number side. Yep. And frankly, yeah. So I did not expect that.
Roy, we always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side. We're wondering what's something that maybe many people don't know about you. Is there anything, and you've been there a few years perhaps, so your colleagues might know quite a bit about you, but something from your past, some chapter that many people might not know about you?
Um, I'll pick on something actually quite recent. So we had an all hands a few days ago actually about mental health. And I shared my personal experience. And I realized based on the feedback that it might be something that is worth sharing with more people. So I'm happy to talk about that. I think on the past couple of years, I'm on a bit of a spiritual journey, to be honest, which may sound weird in the world of CFOs who are supposed to be, data driven and kind of the most rational, logical. Yes, obviously there's that part of me, but I'm also asking myself, why am I here?
Yeah.
What am I doing? What do I want my legacy to be? And not just legacy and impact, but also, how do I want to spend time with my family, with my beloved wife, Malvina, God bless her, and our 4 kids. I'm spending much more time on things like sometimes just, meditating, right? Journaling every morning. So my morning routine, for example, is I wake up in the morning, I journal for 10 minutes. I've started to now meditate much more than I did in the past. I pay much more closer attention to nutrition and sleep. Sleep is absolutely holy for me these days. And I realized that investing in my personal well-being actually helps me be not just a better father and spouse, but also a better executive. It's kind of like they say in the airlines, right? Put your oxygen mask first before you try to help others. It's exactly the same in business as in life, and I feel it. I can tell you, Jack, I'm in a way better place today, mentally and physically, than I was many years ago. And it helps me be a better exec, but much more importantly, a better person, a better father, and a better husband. And I'm just grateful to be to be on this journey.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's, I think a lot of folks can relate to that in today's world, certainly. Tell us something. Is there maybe a business resource or a book or something that's influenced your thinking along the way in business? Anything? And I'll give you the option of it being doesn't have to be a business book. Might be just another volume of some kind.
I mean, there's a couple. I mean, Good to Great by Jim Collins, right? Is obvious. I'm sure a lot of your listeners have read Atomic Habits. I'm obsessed about Atomic Habits. I'm obsessed about building healthy habits, especially when we think about longevity and the longevity of the business. And
does that align with what you just shared? Because that's sort of minimalism, getting more focused on the things that matter, getting rid of the stuff.
100%. Getting rid. We don't need much, Jack. We don't need much. We have way too much.
Yeah.
We need less. And we need good habits. We need good habits as people in terms of, again, sleep, nutrition, exercise, but also as businesses, making good ROI decisions, ruthlessly prioritizing, saying no to things, those kind of things that are really ingrained. I think we need to do more of those things. I'm actually on one more thing is, The Psychology of Money is an incredible one, which I really recommend, not just to finance leaders, to frankly, anyone. It's just a great book. And I'm now listening to, Gabor Mate. So back to the kind of the well-being and longevity and spiritual, emotional, Gabor Mate's, The Myth of Normal, which talks about the body-mind connection and how stress can affect your physical well-being. There's so much deep science around that recently. I'm just fascinated about it. Again, not so much for CFO, just for any human being, but I love those topics.
Great titles for us. Thank you for those. We're up to our final question, and we always ask you to look forward for us finally. We're interested in your CFO priorities for the coming 12 months. What would those be?
Yeah, so one is to work with all the business departments of the company to make sure that every team hits their goal, long-term and short-term, so that we as a company can hit our goals. So this business partnering with every aspect of the organization is absolutely key. That's number one. That's kind of more external facing. So us working with the company. Second is to implement AI. Again, we're in relatively early stages and we know that there's huge potential. We've seen early signs of success, but tons of upside still to explore. And the third is to continue to build the world's number one finance and legal team. So getting the right people on the bus, setting up the organization for success, continue to stress the culture and values, yeah, I would say those are my 3 priorities for the finance organization.
Roy Hefer, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thanks, Jack. It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.